projects and our exercises are getting a little larger, so I went ahead and created the project called data objects. And inside of this object, you will see that I've got 5 classes. And I got them pretty much stubbed out, so we're going to kind of move through the creation process a little quicker. The start has my main. I have a guest, which has a lot of information in. I have a credit card, which has a lot of information. I've got a hotel that has some information, and a room. So we're going to walk through these. First of all, let's walk through the guest here. So a guest has specific attributes, and these are data objects. There's not a lot of functionality going on them right now. There really is just data being stored. So from a guest, we would want to know the guest's name. Maybe they have a loyalty number and they have some kind of discount like a AAA discount, but I only have a char set up there, so I use different data types. We talked about constructors. So in this case, I have a constructor, which means to make a guest, I need to give it 3 pieces of information. Those 3 pieces of information will then be populated into those attributes at the top. And then I have my getters and setters. Notice all of my attributes are private and everything down at the bottom is public. So I cannot access the attributes directly. I would have to either go through the constructor or I would have to go through the getters and setters. But I want to spend just a moment on the constructor piece here. So if I want to create a new guest, I'm requiring you to give for the person to give the name, a loyalty number, and a discount. I cannot make a guest unless I have all 3 pieces of information. Well, maybe we have guests that don't have a loyalty number or a discount. So to allow that, I'm going to go ahead and take out those last 2 attributes and take out the corresponding setting pieces that are happening in my constructor. So now I can make a guest that just has a name, and then I can use my getters and setters to get to the appropriate pieces of information to add a loyalty number or a guest, or add a discount. Now, if I don't want to change the guest's name, I can go ahead and remove the set name getter or setter, and then I would pretty much have that guest locked down to a name. But I don't want to change that because there's a possibility maybe you want to change it from Bob to Rob or whatever you're going to do in that piece. So this data object has 3 pieces of information, and all the rest of this code in here goes along to supporting access and setting those 3 pieces of information. And that's what a data object is in this context. You might hear the term POJO, plain old Java object. It's just a bunch of data that's being stored in an object. Same thing here with credit card. To create a credit card, you would need the number, the CV code on the back, the type, and maybe the expiration date. So to create the constructor, I went ahead and created a constructor, or to create the credit card, I created a constructor that has 4 pieces of information, and all 4 of those pieces of information are needed to make the credit card. If that's the case, I don't need the setters. I wouldn't want to change any of those pieces of information. So I removed all the setters. The only way that I can set the number, the CV, the type, and the expiration is when I add a new object of a credit card. So that's a way to kind of lock down the piece of information. But I also cannot create a credit card unless I give them all 4 pieces of information. So from a hotel perspective, a hotel probably has a name, city, number of rooms, and maybe a Boolean of has pool. And I want to quickly go through and show you how to create those getters and setters. So in the past, we've done this, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click in here, and I'm going to go down to source. And I'm going to go down to generate getters and setters. And I'm going to create all the getters and setters for this stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all. I'm going to leave everything else blank, and I'm going to click generate, and there are all of my getters and setters. Now, this is not doing any business logic. This is just doing, you send me information in and I update it, you ask for information and I send it out. There's no formatting, no business logic that says, okay, I can't set the number of rooms to a negative number. That would be something that you could go in and do it at a later date. The other thing we want to do is we want to set the constructor. When you're creating your plain old data objects or your objects, you normally want to have the ability to add as many pieces of information as you can to get started with it. And Eclipse also has tools to do that. So if I click here, go back down to source, you'll notice that below generate getters and setters is generate constructor using fields. So that's going to take the fields that I have, my attributes, and it's going to go ahead and create a constructor with all of those pieces of information. So there I can go ahead and check all the ones I want. And I'm going to go ahead and Oops, and it put it right down here. So I'm going to move that up to constructor. So now I can't make a hotel unless I give it 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of information. And I probably would want to stick with that. I would probably want to leave name, city, number of rooms, and pool as Boolean as the requirements for it. But I'm also going to remove the city. I want the ability to change the city. You can't set the city. Once you're located in the city of Phoenix, the hotel is not going to just get up and move. So I'm going to remove that setter. All the rest of them could change. The hotel name could change, the number of rooms could change. If you do an addition, you could add a pool or take a pool out. But I'm going to require that all of those informations are put in, because when I create a hotel, I would need to know the name, the city, how many rooms it has, and true or false whether it has number of pools. So that's the constructor for that one. The last one is room. I'm going to quickly go through this one. There's my 4 attributes for it. I set the is booked to false to start with, but I'm going to go ahead and right click, go to source, generate getters and setters, select all, and generate. And I'm going to move those down into my comment area so that I can keep better track of them. And I'm going to go ahead and create a constructor. So right click, go down to source, generate constructor with fields. I would want to create a constructor with all those a room with all that. I would need a room number, I would need number of beds, I would need a rate, and I would need is booked. So I'm going to go ahead and generate that. Actually, I just realized I probably don't need is booked, because I went ahead and I set a default up here to false. So I don't need to pass in is booked, because when you first create a room, it's not going to be booked. So I'm going to take out the 3rd attribute there, and I don't need it as part of that. Whoops, I removed too much, and take that piece out. Okay, so those are my data objects. I have a bunch of information created to them. They don't do anything. I don't have any action in this. It's just the attributes, the supporting getters and setters, and the constructor. So we'll start working with this in the next lesson. Thank you.